I first thought that I wanted to create my own deck of cards a while back, um, and I started just creating a few at first. I just thought like the idea of having a deck was very attractive to me because normally other people have created all the cards that we used to read, like tarot or oracle decks. Oracles are my favorite, but the thing is, everyone else created those cards and they have a meaning to them that is probably different from the meaning that you give to these cards. And the idea that I could create my own cards that had a unique meaning to me, that I knew and that like really resonated with me, was just such a like cool thought, and like it was really attractive. And I started planning them and writing down like a list of ideas for different cards that I would like to make. So this is how this little project started. I currently have maybe like 12 cards that I already kind of like sketched, and some of them I already also painted, but I haven't documented the creation process. However, I am not yet satisfied with a lot of the cards that I have created as like final products, so I will likely repaint some of them. And this specific card, the creator hand, I thought it would be really cool to have like lights and colors coming out in kind of like a whirlwind. And there's like a few things. The thing is, like, whenever we have a thought or an idea, we only solidify it when we start creating it with our hands. Of course, every person has like their different medium. There's people that have their voice for their songs, or like, I don't know, like, but we do use our hands for baking. We use our hands for even playing instruments. We use our hands for drawing and painting or making crafts, or like using like wood, crafting wood, crafting clay pieces. So that's why I decided to go for the hands, because they're very broad for materializing ideas and materializing thoughts and materializing like passions and things that really like call us. We create a lot using our hands. So this was the idea of it, and I wanted to symbolize the variety of things that we can create with this whirlwind of colors. It's like a tornado rainbow kind of thing. And I also really wanted to use fluorescent colors. I've been really attracted to like very bright and like fluorescent colors. Phosphorescent? I forget their name, but I really like those colors. They just feel so alive, and they feel like they have a light of their own. And that's just magical to me, that a paper like can have light almost like coming out of it. Not LEDs, but with paint alone you can create like these really bright effects. And I knew that I really wanted like something very bright and shiny. So in order to create that, I realized I needed to use lots of layers. Here I am using acrylics, and I am using watercolors. The watercolors are a great base for me. I always love starting with watercolors, but as I go, generally the watercolors like start feeling like they don't have enough strength or enough light, and I can very easily not get the desired strength that I want yet. And due to that, I tend to gravitate towards like adding acrylics on top, especially towards the final stages, because like watercolors, you cannot, like, they don't have white. They have white, but the white doesn't like become white over the watercolors easily. It's kind of like whatever strength that you put with the watercolors usually is as strong as it gets, but you cannot go back down to an area becoming white again, the color of the paper. And that's why I really like using acrylics as well on top, because the acrylics provide like that strength if I want to like bring back down a color or like a light, just make like anything lighter. That's why I have a tendency to use both together, and I have also used lots of markers, and sometimes I also add colors like pencil colors, the ones made of wood, and I use that to kind of like add to a painting if I feel is necessary. So I always have like those 4 mediums around me to create with. And I decided to start with this card because, well, to be honest, I had like the sketch, okay? And sometimes when I have a sketch, if I don't have a clear idea in my head of what I want it to look like when it's colored, it's kind of scary to start, because I can very easily like take it in a direction that I don't like, and it can end up being very unpleasant. However, sometimes I am very glad that I went like in the darkness. In this case, I was like, okay, let's just see how it goes. Let's hope for the best. And I am very, very happy with how this painting was like looking as I was making it, but also as like when I finished, I was like, whoa, okay, this can be a final. Oftentimes I start paintings and like I don't like how they're looking, or I don't like where they're going, and oftentimes I end up going too dark on areas at first, and then I cannot bring them down, or because like I may be using paper and like watercolors, and sometimes like the paper is just thin and I cannot add any more layers because the paper just cannot take any more. So these cards, I am creating them in like a little bit thicker than a cardstock, but it's not quite a watercolor paper. So it gives me like a little bit of freedom. I really like the effect I got with this mix of white and fluorescent yellow. It added some glow to things. And I know that for some people it probably feels a bit radioactive. I don't know, sometimes I even like wonder if these colors have like radioactive stuff in them because they're so shiny and like bright. I hope not. But here we are, creating radioactive paintings. If not, I do hope they're not radioactive. These bits of color really added a lot. I added like bits of color at first all over, like at the top, the cone, and then the little bits of white to really add spark. I also wanted to mention that one of the inspirations was that I once was hearing a woman say that we all have the power to heal in our hands, and that it is in the center of our hands, and that when a child falls down and like hurts their knee, they instinctively like put their hands on the injury, and that it is because our hands can heal. And you know, I haven't had I haven't had that experience of like actually healing someone, but like I sure have kept that in my mind every time my daughter gets sick now, or like something hurts for me. And I try to intentionally like kind of go into a meditative state and imagine that like I have light coming out of my hands, and that this light is healing whatever parts I'm touching. I was doing this very recently because my daughter had a fever. And some fevers, like, okay, like they're never pleasant, but this specific fever just felt like it was going on for longer, and it was way stronger, and it was kind of scarier than previous times my daughter had gotten sick. So I don't know, just I don't know if it worked, but just to calm myself down when I already gave the medicine, or we were like already like trying to keep her lightly clothed so that the fever wouldn't go too high. I also tried to like put my hand on her chest and imagine that light was coming out of it and it was healing her and bringing her fever down. And at the same time, when I was alone, I was whispering to her, you are healing, I'm grateful that you are healing. Trying to make it come to fruition, trying to materialize that healthiness. Anyway, these are the thoughts that I have about this painting. I hope you are enjoying it. This is the first of a series of videos that I intend to create. I already have, as I said, like at least 12 of these cards planned. I feel like the next that's really calling me is the Phoenix, and I'm very excited to paint that one, but I'm also very scared because I already inked it and the inks look really cool. So it's very scary that I could like start painting it and screw it up. I hope it doesn't happen, but if it does happen, I'll just try again. Because sometimes, like along the way, you may make mistakes, but you always learn from them. And sometimes, like this time, you end up with something really cool. At least I feel is really cool. I like how it came out. I wasn't expecting it to go well. I don't know, I usually have no expectations. Sometimes it just doesn't go well, but sometimes I'm like, wow. And here I really like not only like how the torrential of colors came out, but I also really liked some of like the light that I put on the hands, like those oranges that are really bright and shiny. Oh, I love how those came out. And I hope to one day get to have the collection of cards like made and printed. Please let me know if you would be interested in like purchasing those, but if not, I am making them for me, and that's enough. Thank you for coming in this journey. I hope you like this painting. It was so much fun to make. And this video is only around like 15 minutes long, but this was 51 minutes of painting. Anyway, I don't know how to finish this video. Bye, subscribe, like, or not, that's also fine. Thanks! I guess the painting process is still gonna keep going for a little bit. But this is the end of my voice. Bye bye!